jail system wasn't built to do reentry. So sometimes like some of the rules and like the ways that they operated when a reentry program is implemented, it can kind of challenge some of those like rules and structures that are in place.
That was the voice of Angeles Guzman, manager of the Pathway to Community Jail Reentry program here in Flagstaff, Arizona. We often think about the prison system only during incarceration, but what happens the moment someone walks out those doors? What challenges do people face when getting out of jail or prison? In today's episode, we speak with Angeles to help us answer these questions.
Welcome to Unlocked Futures Through Pathways, part of the series Punishment in the High Country, produced by criminology students at Northern Arizona University. I'm your host, Mia Rodriguez.
And I'm Diana Ramirez. Today we're talking with Angeles about the challenges people face when they leave jail or prison and about the programs working to change how our community responds to them. Before Angeles joined Pathway, she worked in probation, and what she saw there shifted her entire perspective. The people she encountered were some of the hardest working, intelligent, most resilient people she'd ever met.
Her insight shows that even after surviving some of the most difficult times of their lives, formerly incarcerated people continue to persevere after leaving jail or prison. However, the outside world does not greet them with open arms. Instead, they are met with mountains of expectations and almost zero tools for them to start with.
Programs like Pathway are pushing for systemic change and supporting people in gaining access to essential resources. We often talk about reentry as a single event that occurs, but the reality is that reentry also involves reuniting families, finding employment, stable housing, and even just the appropriate clothes for the time of the year.
So think about like you have someone that like literally is released without shoes and they're trying to find shoes to put on their feet.
Imagine being released from jail in the middle of winter in Flagstaff, standing on icy pavement with no shoes, no money, and no ride. How can you be expected to abide by the conditions of release when you can't even walk to a bus stop?
We live in the second largest county in the U.S. We also have another correctional facility in Coconino County in Page. So Page is only a holding facility. So folks are really only housed there for like 1 to maybe 3 days, and then they're transported to Flagstaff. And there is no public transportation that goes from Flagstaff to Page. So how do you get home?
And it's not just transportation. The Office of the Assistant Secretary for Planning and Evaluation states that in the U.S., over 600,000 people are released from state and federal prisons every year, averaging roughly to over 1,600 people per day. In the first full calendar year after release, only 55% report any earnings at all, and the median income for those who do is just above $10,000. Finding housing after incarceration can be difficult due to high rental costs, background check discrimination, and limited transitional housing. People are coming out with almost nothing into a system that expects everything.
And getting back on your feet requires paperwork, ID, a birth certificate, and proof of address. But if you're not from Arizona, getting those documents isn't simple. Without internet access or a debit card, you can't order a birth certificate from another state online. Without an ID, you can't get housing. Without housing, you can't get a job. It's a loop with no clear entry point.
Add to that the shortage of mental health and substance use treatment. In all of Coconino County, there's just one residential treatment program that accepts Medicaid. Everyone else has to travel to Prescott or Maricopa County, which again brings us back to transportation.
So that's where Pathways to Community comes in. The program launched in August 2022 from a simple but urgent question.
Jail staff identifies like we have the same people like coming in and out, right? Like how can we support these folks? How can we help them remain in the community and not come back to jail?
Pathways was established with grant funding and partnerships between the Sheriff's Office, the Health Department, and the County Attorney's Office. Most importantly, it functions separately from probation. One primary way Pathways to Community offers help is through their peer support specialist program.
Peer support is someone who has lived experience. So there's, when they're working with folks, there's like no authority figure, right? They're peers.
According to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, it is estimated 58% of people in prisons and 63% in jail have a substance use disorder.
Folks who are released from jail are about 80 times more likely to experience a fatal overdose.
People who have a criminal record and history of substance abuse are frequently discriminated against. Their recovery may be made more difficult by the stigma and may affect their ability to find housing or employment. Many former offenders find it difficult to maintain sobriety without assistance and may end up back in the legal system.
With compassion, understanding, and really like centering relationship with folks. Something that you hear is like the opposite of addiction is connection.
Recidivism prevention is another goal of Pathways to Community. Data from Prison Policy Initiative shows that over 10 million people are incarcerated in the United States each year, and at least 1 in 4 of them are booked into jail more than once in a single year.
2 decades ago, probation was harsher. If people didn't follow the rules, they would go back to prison, but that approach was not working.
So they had to shift their approach on how can we best support folks, right? And what does that look like? That looks like connecting them to the resources that they need. That looks like showing them how to use and maintain those resources. I think it's also our responsibility to show them and ensure that they have the skills to be successful. And I think a big part and something that like I really, really value at Pathways is relationship building.
Pathways sees and assists between 300 and 500 people in a month. After serving time in prison, there are many obstacles to overcome, but there are also many success stories.
It doesn't matter how many times someone has walked through our door, right? If this is the 10th time that they've gotten arrested in the last month, or this is the first time they've ever gotten arrested in their entire life, like we're going to treat them the same way that we did the first time.
Angela shares one story of how a young woman had gotten into a pretty traumatic car accident while under the influence. She wasn't from Flagstaff, and her parents weren't exactly in her corner. She was dealing with a lot of stress and felt almost completely lost without a mode of transportation.
She was able to chat with our staff, someone that had lived experience with substance use, and our staff was able to share like a little bit of their story and help them get connected to residential treatment. So she was able to go to residential treatment. We then helped her get her own place, so she was able to get her own apartment, and we helped her like create her resume and get a job. So she's been able to like be pretty successful and navigate the community like pretty independently, even though she had like a pretty traumatic event that led to her incarceration.
That story really emphasizes how much someone like a peer support specialist can really help uplift others.
And it was great to hear about how Pathways built their foundation on that idea, that they genuinely wanted to lower these rates of recidivism and work more on helping people with their basic needs.
Angeles reminds us that successful integration looks different for everyone. Pathways is creating an environment for people to have access to basic necessities, such as a closet to grab clothing from, a snack room, providing them with an MVD voucher to get replacement IDs, a bus ticket, or even just some place to allow people to collect themselves before entering the outside world.
When you treat people with like compassion, with dignity, and with respect, like they will come back and like they will get the support that they need because like they're feeling valued like as a human.
We want to leave you with this. Supporting people during their toughest times truly matters. Whether you're a family member, a friend, or someone helping from a distance, even the smallest act of kindness can make a real difference, and sometimes it can change a life.
If you would like to donate clothing, food, supplies, or would like more information on ways to help, you can contact Pathways in person at 951 East Sawmill Road or over the phone at 928-679-7404. They would be happy to point you in the right direction for getting involved.
Before we go, we want to say a special thank you to Angeles Guzman for working with us to get the information and compelling stories that helped make this episode what it is. We want to thank you all for tuning into this episode of the series Punishment in the High Country, and we hope you'll join us again soon.